going to turn it over to Josh, who's going to introduce the personalities at Tulip Winery. Really cool story. I love visiting that winery. I love the wines. I love the people there. This is really, really an amazing opportunity to get an inside look at this. And I'm really excited. Even though I've been there a couple of times, I'm really excited about this session. So without further ado, I turn it over to Josh.
Good evening, everybody, and good morning to our friends in Israel, to David and Roy. I'm here, again, reminding everybody, I'm here in Westchester, New York, doing the call, so it's 11 o'clock for me here. Nice and early in Israel, so thank you guys for hopping on the call so early. So also, I just want to let everyone know I'm wearing this really cool tulip hat that I actually got in Mexico. So this is not a tulip hat from Israel, this is a tulip hat from Mexico, everybody. These are great friends of mine. Roy and David are great people. They run a great, amazing winery over there. It's one of the coolest wineries I've ever visited. The story's amazing. You guys are going to hear a lot of cool stuff today. So I want to kick it off to my friend Roy, the owner of the winery, who just does an absolutely amazing job surrounding himself with great people and a great team, allowing everybody to do their job and make great wine. So good morning, Roy, and tell us a little bit about Tulip Winery.
Good morning. First of all, in this time, participate in the Zoom meeting. So this is how it looks, the Middle East sunrise. Here it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. Me and David, the winemaker, we're standing on the best place in the winery, I think, on the tanks. You can see the tanks, all the tanks we have in the winery. So now we're on the bridge that we're very close to the wines, so we'll be able to taste it fresh in the morning. For those who doesn't know nothing about the Village of Hope, it's an amazing place, very green. You can see it maybe behind the tanks, all this place, the Village of Hope. So the Village of Hope, as you can see, it's like a small village, like a kibbutz. The special thing about the Village of Hope is that all 100% of the citizens are mentally challenged people. And this is the reason, the major reason that we opened the winery here 17 years ago, in order to give those people opportunity to live normal life like us, and to live a normal life, meaning also to have a job.
We're going to taste some whites and reds. Doing the winery, we'll taste some things from the tanks. I think that would be the most interesting thing to do. So we can start.
And David, just to remind you guys, the first wine that everyone has in front of them for our friends that have wines in front of them, or for wines that we're talking about, the White Tulip was the first wine. The 2018 White Tulip was the first wine listed on Kosherwine.com.
Actually, don't know how many of you know, but the first White Tulip was in 2007, and that was the first white wine that Tulip produced. And I told the winemakers those days, guys, please, I want to have white wine, but please don't give me another Chardonnay or another Sauvignon Blanc. I want something different, something unique. After a few weeks or months, they brought the idea to combine these two varieties, the Gewürztraminer, that we all know him most of the time as semi-dry or sweet wines, and the Sauvignon Blanc together. So when I consult with some colleagues here, in some winemakers, they told me, are you crazy? How you are going to combine these two varieties? This is an aromatic one, this is a fruity one, this with lots of acidity. But and they told me, you're going to lose your money, you're going to suicide. I'm happy that I didn't hear them. Gilad is our winemaker assistant, because he's the only religious guy in the family here now. Okay, don't tell me what we're tasting.
Roy, I think it's a white wine.
Anyway, that's the White Tulip 2019. I think that what you guys have at home is 2018.
We have the 18 in front of us, and Roy just explained to us how unique of a blend it is. Can you explain to us from the winemaking perspective how challenging it is for you, and do you enjoy making interesting, unique stuff?
making a white wine out of two varieties that are not 100% compatible to one another is bringing something new to the world. All right, so we all know that Sauvignon Blanc can be very fresh and crisp, and the Gewürztraminer can be very aromatic in its way, sometimes extremely aromatic. In Israel, the Gewürztraminer would be, I think, sometimes too aromatic, and it needs something to balance it. So in that case, the Sauvignon Blanc just helped us as winemaking to do that job, to make it a crisp, elegant wine, not something that is more, I would say, it takes the wine and connect it all together. Taking these two varieties, it is a challenge because they're harvested in two different times. There's almost 4 weeks difference between the two varieties, date of harvest. So they need to ferment separately and then to be blended in the right way about a month later, after the end of fermentation. It does give us challenges each vintage because each vintage, of course, gives different characteristics to the wine. The 2019 now is very fresh, and I think 2018 that you have now should be right in the point of drinking, because the Gewürztraminer comes out after a few months, and it should be lovely on your table now.
And what do you pair it well with stuff? But what do you suggest?
Of course, fresh salads, a lot of fresh fruits can go with the summer fruits that we start having on our tables now, like peach, apricot, melons, and of course, in the beginning of the dinner or lunch, noontime, afternoon, with fresh salads and fresh fruit. It's not for heavy dishes.
So pretty much from 6 a.m. to like 4 p.m.?
6 a.m. is the best time. 4 p.m. we can start drinking reds.
Where did you learn your winemaking skills, so everyone knows out there?
I started my way as an assistant winemaker down here in Israel, and then I went to Australia to work in a couple of wineries, studied winemaking back in 2004, made my master's degree 3 years ago also in winemaking here in Israel. So I've been working in this industry for the last 20 years, making some harvests around the world and mostly here in Israel. In the last 8 years, I'm here in Tulip Winery. It's going to be my 9th vintage now in a couple of months. I think my biggest influence would be Australia, Tasmania, I would say.
Can you touch a little bit more on that, how important it is bringing out the local Israel style and utilizing the skills of the land almost?
Vineyards is the most important thing in the wine. So vineyards, of course, is the land. In the last 2 years, we brought a lot of changes to the wine growing, changing our perspective in the wine, in the grape growing, different irrigations techniques and different pruning techniques, something that we brought in to all our vineyards, which enable us to make more elegant wines, lower alcohol, and still very fresh and rich in taste. I think the way and challenges in doing that are bigger than the winemaking itself, because at the end of the day, you need the best fruit, of course, to make the best wine, but understanding that the best fruit is the fruit that takes the attributes of the land, not just the attributes of high ripening and a lot of sugars and like big bold wines, as the other way around. What we like to do today is making more elegant, more true to the land, and that's my winemaking today.
Can you explain, you guys made a white Franc, then you made a rosé, and then you made a white Franc. A couple of people had some questions out there. What are you making in Israel, and what are you producing these days?
We're calling it today white Franc. I think in the rosé we use less white grapes and more red grapes. I think the balance between the Sauvignon Blanc and Cab Franc is more correct now, and this is why we're calling it white Franc. In the rosé we use less Sauvignon Blanc. I think it made the wine not as fresh as we wanted it to be. What we're doing now is just making Cab Franc like white wine and adding a Sauvignon Blanc about 35 to 40%, which keeps the wine very, very crisp, and all the and gives all the attributes of the Cab Franc. Of course, the fresh red fruit and the Sauvignon Blanc just supports that. I think doing a rosé out of Cab Franc, like a straight up rosé, didn't do the, for me as a winemaker, didn't give the right things to the wine.
The Asparo. Will you tell me a little bit about the name of the wine, where it came from, and a little bit more about how you got involved personally in just the wine business? Because I know you weren't always in the wine business, and why you got involved with it.
Okay, first of all, Asparo comes from the language Esperanto, which is the well-known guy Zamenhof created. Esperanto is supposed to be the second language all over the world. He's successful with, 2 million people still talking about Esperanto. The meaning of Asparo is hope. And since we are in the village of hope, we wrote on the label, Asparo, a wine of hope, because we believe that always, even in, in a bad situation or in bad periods, like now with the Corona and the COVID issues, I think we need to be very optimistic always, and we think we need hope always. When we created the first Asparo, we sat with many chefs in Israel in order to create the perfect wine for food. So the Asparo, the red, and now we have also sister or brother for the red. We have in Israel white, not in the States yet. So these two Asparo are fit to almost any kind of food. If you drink this wine with a nice pasta, wow, it's amazing. But you can drink this wine also with a, heavy steak with whatever. What do you think for these three varieties blend?
Syrah is a classic warm climate variety. They use it down in Australia, of course, when we took it here to Israel, and we done the same. Cab Franc and Merlot coming from the Jerusalem region are beautiful, spicy, keeps the fresh red fruit and supports the blend with the Syrah. These three varieties are very classic to the Israeli climate. They're giving something very different than cool climate Cab Franc and Merlots, and of course cool climate Syrah. More rich, more full-bodied. So at the end of the day, making a blend of Syrah, Cab Franc, and Merlot for me was very, very intuitive, I think.
And can you tell us a little bit about your process of making and working with blends maybe versus working with straight varietals and the difficulties or the advantage to doing them?
By the way, also working with straight up Cab, I would say, is always a blend, because at the end of the day, you blend some vineyards or you blend some barrels, so it's always blends. But few varieties needs a lot of patience, because first of all, we need to let the wines ripen in the barrels. So we can't make the blend for aged blends, of course. We can't make the blends right in the tanks or right in the harvest. We need to wait until the wine will mature in the barrels, and then we start making the blends. So for this wine, of course, the variety is matured separately in the barrels for about 6 to 8 months. And when we make the first blend, we're tasting, for this wine, we make around 80 barrels. So we'll taste between 50 to 60 barrels from each variety to decide which barrels are the most accurate or correct for the blend. Out of them, we'll take the 80 right barrels to make the blend. We'll blend them together. We let them age together for another 6 months, and then we'll check the blend again just to make it right, and then we'll bottle it, because the Asparo is blended is maturing for 12 months in the barrels. So it's a long process. We need to think about it each time. When we taste the barrels, it's part of the process that we do here in the winery about 3 times a year. So we take all the barrels, of course, and we taste them.
We've spoken to some winemakers lately, and we know that it's springtime in Israel. It's like springtime here, and the buds are starting to come on, and it's a beautiful time in the vineyards. What's actually doing at the winery these days? What stage is the winery at?
Mainly bottling now. Next week, we're going to do the blends of the 2019 vintage, the reds, the heavy reds. it will take us about a week to taste all the barrels that we have here in the winery. So, but the main thing that we do now is bottling the wines of 2018, 2017, 2019.
Can you tell us a little bit about this Cab Reserve versus your entry-level Cabernet and working with a Cab in Israel?
Well, Cab in Israel is not classic, all right? Israel is a warm country, as we know, and the classic Cabs will come mainly from cooler climates like Bordeaux, maybe, well, Napa is not a cool climate region, but has colder winters, I think, than what we have here in Israel. So our Cabs will come from the Upper Galilee. We have some Cabs in the Golan Heights, but we don't use them for our reserve Cab. It's challenging because you don't want this Cab to be overripe. You don't want it to be too jammy. You don't want it to be too heavy in the palate. You just want it to be in the right point of drinking. So it needs to be very, very rich and mouth-filling. So, and we age it for about 16 months. So it needs to know how to hold the barrel or the barrel needs to support this rich fruit that Cab has.
The Coronas, maybe not in the middle, just behind the heel, but we took many not easy decisions as the owner, you know, to send people to vacations, to stay at home, and of course the sales went down. But the first decision I took is the wine doesn't know the Corona. So everything that influenced the wine or connecting to the production division in the winery, we are not cutting nothing. The opposite. Now we are planting, while we are talking, we are planting new vineyard in the in the Golan Heights, and everything that influenced the wine, we don't stop. The opposite. We spend more and more money. So toys like you said, Josh, and vineyards and everything for the wine, of course, we're spending with a big smile.
For those of you who don't know it out there, Roy, can you please tell us a little bit about the Black Tulip and about the quote in the back about we label wines, not people? I just think that's so important for you to tell a little bit about that as well.
As a social business, in 2005, meaning 15 years ago, I took the decision to produce high-level wine, flagship wine for the winery. And we did this wine, the Bordeaux blend, aged in barrels for 24 months. And I decided on any other label, we don't write our story, all right, the social story. We did a year context between 4 different social organizations in Israel. We told them, please guys, paint for us paintings that connecting to wine or vineyards, and we got more than 1,000 paintings, drawings. To be honest, 0 was connecting to wine, but anyhow, they were beautiful. And then we did a semi-final, quarter-final, and final, and the drawing that won, we did a big, very fancy launching event. So I invited the drawer and his family. He's a Down syndrome guy, and I was very, very emotionally regarding to that, because it is very colorful, optimistic drawing that made by Down syndrome guy. So he is and his family came to the hall for the launching event, and this David start crying, and they asked him, David, why are you crying? You need to be happy. Look at the wines; they're all with your label. So he said, yes, this is why I'm crying. I thought it's going to be on one bottle. Now I see hundreds of them. It's a project that we called Don't Label Me, because we put labels on wines and not on people. And it's a big, it's something to say to the world. Guys, there are people that are looking different from us, talking different from us, but we are all the same. Don't put label on people, because each one has its own soul.
If I'm tasting 6 o'clock in the morning and you're tasting 11 o'clock, or I don't know, Western times, probably 8 o'clock, we'll taste and smell different stuff. Our taste buds in the morning work differently than in the evening. In the evening, they are very, very influenced of what we had during the day. In the morning, after a long and a good sleep, it's much more fresh and we can smell a lot more stuff. So usually the wine tasting that we do here in the winery for blendings and tasting wines will be early in the morning. We won't wait until the evening to taste and take decisions about the wine. We'll do it in the morning. So for me now, a lot of fresh, like green grass coming out from the wine, like cut grass, not like Sauvignon Blanc, all right? It's not the same, but it is green. Do you know that Cabernet Sauvignon and Cab Franc are the parents, Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc are the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon. So sometimes we get the same notes or same smells and aromas that we have in Cabernet Sauvignon. Will it be the same like in Cab Franc or Sauvignon Blanc? This is because they are the parents. In the mouth, a lot of red fruit, raspberries, I would say, some red plums, not plums like in the Aspero. The Aspero will be black plums from the Shiraz. Here it's red plums. Astringency, quite strong in the wine now. This wine can hold and age for at least 6 to 10 years easily.
And the black tulip, the every time I've tasted has been phenomenal. I've tasted it at the winery, I've tasted it at home, I've tasted it at the office, I've tasted it at KFWE, which is an event that there's all kinds of wines and food and everything every year, and it's in LA and New York. It's always been amazing. I am truly, truly inspired by the story behind the label and just everything that Tulip does. And I just want to echo that with a couple of comments I've been reading here. Someone who said that their child who has a rare genetic disorder and had the opportunity to visit the winery was so excited about that opportunity. Someone else who teaches special ed is really inspired by the story. And this is, David Teets, who's making the wine now for Tulip, and Roy, who we heard from earlier and we'll hear from again. Just the whole way that everything is run there, it's truly inspirational. And the fact that there's amazing wine to go with it, and it's not just a social responsibility story, but it's actually making great wine and leveraging that for the betterment of the community is just a fantastic story.
How long really does that let you age the wines coming out of the portfolio from Tulip? How long can you age a bottle of black tulip? How long should you drink a bottle of the white tulip? Give us a little bit of information about the ageability and how to store some of your great tulip wines.
Black tulip is easy. From what we know and what we taste, you can age the black tulip for at least 10, 12 years. We're tasting now black tulips from 2005, 2006. They're holding beautifully. I think the wines, this 2017, for instance, can go hold for 15 years easily. Regarding white tulip, I say 2 to 4 years. It's built to be a fresh wine, but Gewürztraminer comes out in this after a year or two, so it can hold for 2 years. It's not a wine to age, all right, the white tulip. But the Aspero that you have there, at least 6 years, if not 10 years, easily. And the Cab Reserve will hold like the black tulip.
The date, the year that's on the label of a bottle, is that the year of harvest or the year that the wine was bottled?
Harvest.
Which grape are we harvesting next? And what's the order throughout the year? And what's the last one? And when is the last harvest of the year?
So harvest in the Northern Hemisphere will start in the hottest regions, will start end of July. The first varieties that will harvest will be Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and then Syrah, Merlot, Cab Sauvignon, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot will be the last usually. This is in the international varieties. We have some more Mediterranean varieties that will come in the mid of the season, like Carignan, and also French Colombard that will be in the end of the season. So harvest in Israel will start end of July and will end kind of mid-October, end of October. Depends on the region in Israel, because Israel is very diverse climate-wise. In the northern Galilee or Golan Heights, you can harvest until end of October.
Beth wants to know, why are all the tanks outside and why aren't they inside and protected? And I had this question the first time I went to Israel also, and I looked at every winery. They're all like that, but Roy or David, can you explain why the tanks are outside?
Tanks can be inside or outside. The most important thing is that the temperature inside will be controlled. Mid-August here, I can reach -5 degrees Celsius here inside the tanks if I want. So it doesn't really matter if it's outside or inside. It's just a matter of convenience, and it's not. There's no importance of having tanks inside or outside. It's important for the workers. It's easier to work in the shade, of course. There's no influence on the winemaking or winemaking process, actually.
Roy mentioned something that in his years of making wine, he did not put the story of Tulip on the back of every single bottle of wine. He left it especially for the black tulip. This just shows you that this guy's passion and the team's passion over there at Tulip Wine for getting these people part of the community is the most important thing for him. I think it's our job and my job personally to go out and help them tell this story. So when people say, what can I do to help Tulip? What can I do? You know what? Just go out this week coming up and tell somebody this story. That's all I want you guys to do. It'd be great to buy a bottle of wine also, but share the story of Tulip with somebody this week and let them know of a cool thing that's being done in Israel.